Welcome to The Nation. I'm Rachel Smalley. You'd think a sold-out Super Rugby final must be a sign of good health for Heartland Rugby, but not according to a new review of rugby finances released this week. The Deloitte Report shows our provincial unions are struggling to break even, and the grassroots game is at serious risk. So what's the New Zealand Rugby Union going to do? Its CEO Steve Tew joins me from Wellington. Hi Steve, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Morning, my pleasure.
Let's have a look at one of the main lines that came out of this Deloitte report. I suspect it's not news to you that over the last 5 years, ITM unions have been making a loss. Is that the reality with gate takings, etc. down? What's behind that?
Yeah, well, you're right. The first thing is that it's not news to us. We've been monitoring the situation ourselves. We get a lot of detailed financial information 3 or 4 times a year from our union. So what Deloitte found just reinforced what we already knew. In fact, we've been working with the Deloitte team to kind of finesse some of the information in that report. So it's good to have it independently verified. The last 3 or 4 years in particular have been very difficult for provincial unions and in fact for most organisations in this country, because we are operating in a terrible economic environment. Having said that, it is what it is, and probably the global financial crisis, or whatever you want to call it, is our new normal. So we need to adjust our behaviour. We've been having those conversations with our unions, and already the information we've been getting largely from our unions over the last 12 months is an improvement in cost control, reduction in expenditure, and they're working very, very hard to get the income in they need. There are still 1 or 2 who have got work to do, and that's, as always, a worry for us.
Is the reality then that, in essence, it's the All Blacks, the All Black brand that financially has to drive rugby in this country?
Yeah, we've done some analysis, and we can break our game down, if you like, into components. And most of the components, the community game, Heartland Rugby, the ITM Cup, even Investec Super Rugby, they all generally run at a loss depending on how you input the information. And it's the All Blacks that actually make a profit. But of course, we wouldn't have an All Black team winning and being profitable if we didn't have community rugby, kids playing school rugby and coming through the various grades to become ultimately the best in the country. So it's a cycle, if you like, it's a machine, and we've just got to make sure that we keep each piece in ballot. I think the most important thing really coming out of the Deloitte report is that if our provincial unions overemphasise their spend, if you like, and their focus on that ITM Cup team, their idea of the professional game, then there is a danger the community game doesn't get the attention it requires. And if we do that, of course, then the foundation of the pyramid starts to get shaky. So we're working very hard to ensure that's not the case.
I guess that means that puts you in a position where you have to maximise financially what the All Black brand can deliver then. Does that mean feasibly on the horizon we're going to see maybe a brand coming onto, aside from Adidas, coming onto the All Black jersey, do you think?
Well, I mean, already we do some things that we would probably prefer not to do. We play more All Black Test matches in a year than ideally we would like. This year we're playing 13, we've previously played 15 in a year. It's probably 3 or 4 too many. Ideally, we think, for the brand and certainly for the players that are involved in that incredibly rich history that we protect with some passion. But it is a reality for us. We've already got a brand on the All Black jersey. People, I think, lose sight of the fact that our partners Adidas have paid for the jersey as it currently looks, and it is fantastic. We have not dismissed, though, the possibility we would put something else on the jersey if the economic argument was sustainable. It
seems reasonably common for international teams to do so, particularly if you look at, say, the Wallabies. Yep. They have that brand, I think it's Qantas, across the front of their jersey. Also, up until a wee while ago, England had O2 emblazoned across theirs, as well as, the Nike tick. Qantas also, and Cougar is across the front of the Wallaby jersey. Is it just a reality? I assume that Adidas is paid to be the sole brand on the jersey at the moment. When would that potentially change? When would that come up for review?
Well, we've got a contract with Adidas till 2019, so again, it puts us in a very solid position. It's a very significant chunk of our commercial income, and it's locked in until 2019. We do have provision in that contract, though, to sit down with them and discuss the possibility of another brand or something else to happen to the apparel. And if we get to a position where we think that is A, necessary, and B, can be managed in the appropriate way, then we'll do it. But it is worth just pointing out for you and the viewers that to the best of our knowledge, and we can't always be 100% sure with commercial confidentiality, though, we get more from Adidas than Australia get from Cougar and Qantas combined, or O2 and Nike in England. So we've got a very strong brand that we are maximising currently. Will we do more in the future? Who knows? We'll be monitoring that as we go through this.
I guess, and again, it's probably difficult for you commercially, but to put another brand on the All Black jersey, I assume an international brand, that would cost out in the millions, wouldn't it, to have an association with the All Blacks?
Oh, you know, if we were to put anything else on the jersey, we would be talking tens of millions, certainly. And we're looking for a long-term partner and one that fitted the imagery and the way we operate. So those things, as I say, look, we haven't ever closed the door on that option, nor have we made any announcements, despite some of the publicity of recent times.
OK, the other option, of course, is, I imagine, exhibition games, perhaps Japan, Hong Kong, America. It's already a pretty busy test schedule for the All Blacks. But what level would say playing a test in, I don't know, New York or LA, what sort of income would that generate by the All Blacks that you could then pump into grassroots rugby?
Yeah, no, there's some pretty good money playing tests around the world. We are playing 2 what we call commercial test matches this year. So on the end of year tour, we're playing an additional game against England. That is for a negotiated fee, which is substantial. And we are also playing a 3rd Bledisloe, and we've locked that in with the Australians for the next, I think, 7 or 8 years as well. And that is a straight profit share. So we go to Brisbane this year, we will take half the profit from that game. So that's a very big step forward for us commercially, because the way the IRB model works is slightly just disadvantages a small country like New Zealand. OK, I'd like to look at Super Rugby as well and the franchises there. Sure.
There's been some debate, and in fact I understand that the NZRU has in essence tendered out for those franchises to be run under licence. Can you explain how that process would work?
Yeah, well, about this time last year, we were very worried. All of our franchises, I think maybe bar one, had made losses last year. This year, obviously, things are looking a hell of a lot more positive. But we decided we would test the market, if you like, and see if there was some way of taking the risk of those losses off the NZRU's balance sheet, because we own those 5 franchises. The one thing we don't want to lose, though, is control of our players, which is, we think, our biggest competitive advantage. We don't have the situation, as they do in the UK or France, for example, where the national team has to virtually negotiate the players out of their clubs to go and play test matches. That seems to us to be crazy. So we want to keep some control. So we've taken a very tentative step, if you like, towards a private equity model, and we have offered the opportunity for consortia or provincial unions, or a bit of both, to take a licence to run those franchises. They'll take the risk, but they'll also take the return. And we're quite well progressed with 4 separate parties for the 4 franchises we put up for tender. And I'd like to think that, you know, come the end of September, we'll be making some announcements one way or the other.
So you've had some strong interest then?
Yeah, we've had some good interest. It's not without its complications, obviously. And it's changed a little bit, because this time last year it was doom and gloom. This time this year, with our home semis and finals in the country, everyone's a hell of a lot more positive. And in fact, all of our franchises are looking to return a profit this year. So I think that puts us in a stronger position, and we're working our way through that.
What do you think the likelihood is that one of these franchises will change hands next year?
Well, we're not selling them. Let's make that very clear. We're only offering an opportunity to licence them for, in fact, 3 years with some strong renewal opportunities. So they certainly won't change hands, but I think there's a good chance that at least 2 or 3 of the proposals we're working through will come through to conclusion. But ultimately, that's a decision for our board later this year.
And what will you get for your money, in essence?
Well, what we're offering to the licensees is the chance to run the franchise, to be involved in the game, and for some people that's considerable interest in itself. The profits that can be made will in the first instance be available to those investors, and obviously a chance to be involved in our game.
So if you take a franchise, say like the Blues, that would be run by the franchisee, some say the Sky City Blues perhaps?
Yeah, well, one option that we have on the table is some more commercial imagery, if you like, around the teams in long term. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, we want to maintain control of the key asset, if you like, that we have in this country, and that is our players. And so we're looking at a very soft approach towards a private equity and involvement.
So if we use the Blues as an example then, Steve, would that remove the current management structure from that franchise? I'm just using the Blues as an example here.
Yeah, well, it might have done, and I don't want to breach the negotiations we're currently in, but it comes as no surprise to you, I think, that the people that are currently involved in our franchises are very keen to remain so. And so a lot of our discussions are with people that are already involved in the management and running of the outfits.
It's a very difficult line you walk, isn't it? You're trying to keep rugby alive financially. You've got to protect the All Black brand and keep the rugby public happy. You're juggling a few balls, aren't you, Mr. Tew?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, our job is really make judgment calls, and there's a fine balance between keeping the unique thing that is rugby in this country and right down to the small rural playground to being the best we possibly can be and winning on the international stage. And can I just say before we go, Rach, because I expect you're about to wind me up, can I just pass on our congratulations to New Zealand rowing. What an outstanding 24 hours for that sport. Got a lot to be proud of.
Indeed, absolutely. All right, Steve Tew, CEO of the New Zealand Rugby Union, very much appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.